Fable 1 yielded poor results and disappointed many gamers, but can Lionhead's latest outing into the Fable universe, Fable 2, make up for its past mistakes? Here's my review.
Let's get one thing straight. Peter Molyneux is probably one of the best salesmen on this planet. Unfortunately, he has failed to deliver on many past promises. The first Fable was an arguably good game, but it failed to meet all the expectations set by Molyneux. Fable 2 is Peter's chance to redeem himself. Does he pass? The answer is mostly yes. The visual style of this game is a cheerful one, not terribly realistic, but almost cartoony. It's your classic fantasy archetype, bright colors and exaggerated physique. The game as a whole looks very pretty. Technically, the game is an extremely eye-pleasing adventure, but I never found myself looking over a bit of scenery and thinking, wow, that looks really nice. The graphics do their job well, and while they're not game-changing, they do complement the overall feel of the game. The animations are in the same boat. Nothing too special, but they do their job. Slowdown is practically non-existent, which is impressive as you can quite often have a lot of movement and particle effects on screen at one time. There are many emotes you can do in order to impress or inspire fear in the locals. All of these are done quite well, and the range of different actions you can do is impressive. The story starts with you as a child living in poverty with your sister. Soon, your sister is murdered by the game's main antagonist, Lucien. The game skips forward 10 years to you as a teenager, and the main campaign begins. The child portion of the game serves as the tutorial for all the different functions of the game and the introduction to the story. There are several other spots in the main story where time will skip forwards and your actions, whether good or evil, will have an effect on your character and how the world sees you. I suppose the biggest failing of this game lies in the online co-op. The first thing you'll notice is that it's impossible to bring your fully leveled up and customized character into another player's world. This is extremely disappointing, as it robs you of the opportunity to show off to your friends just how kick-ass, or messed up as the case may be, your character is. And if that wasn't enough, when you go into co-op, it turns into a shared camera. This is the worst camera I have ever seen. Yeah, even worse than Ninja Gaiden. It's practically impossible to see anything you want to see, and it makes you wish you were antisocial so you wouldn't have to play co-op with anyone. On the plus side, you can always hook up with a friend who's completed the game, and have him give you high-end weapons and a load of money. The character interaction, even if you're not in the same world, is pretty impressive. One thing I admire about this game is how hard the good path is. Not hard as in challenging, but hard decisions. You could choose not to submit to the enemy and be tortured, but this will leave your character deformed. The evil path is undoubtedly easier, which usually isn't in games like this. The ending moral choice is an extremely hard one. The story itself is pretty standard, but the way it's executed is masterful. So many choices that will actually affect the world around you. So many instances to choose between yourself, your mission, and your companions. The ending is love or hate. Some hate how sudden it may seem. I, however, see it as satisfyingly fitting. The controls of this game are extremely tight. The spell selection could have used a bit of work, but for the most part it does its job. It's a pretty simple interface. One button for ranged weapons, one button for melee, and one for magic. Magic attacks can be chained together in creative ways. For example, you could use a Raise Dead spell to distract your opponents while you charge up a more powerful spell. You could assign spell level 1 to time control, allowing you to zip behind an enemy with the touch of a button to attack him with your sword. All this adds up, making the combat system very tight and functional. Unfortunately, a combat system this tight means that the enemies have to be made harder to accommodate your upgrading skill. Sadly, this does not happen. Combat is extremely easy. The enemy difficulty never seems to change as you progress through the game, which means that if you find the game easy at the beginning, you'll fall asleep with the combat after you've leveled up your character. It's not just the combat that's easy either. Money is easy to come by as well. There are a great many jobs available. Too bad that all the jobs play exactly the same. They could have at least given you different mini-games for the different tasks. Once you build up enough money, however, it gets interesting, as you can invest in stores by buying them, purchase houses and then rent them out. You can start your own corporate empire to a point. It's nice how much work was put into the little things like this, but it's just sad that it's so easy. The sound is on par with fantasy games. Your basic clangs of metal and gunshot sounds do the game justice, but they're nothing special. Noticing a trend yet? Voice acting is on par for the most part, but I have to say that the performances by the actors behind your sister and Lucian are fantastic. It's a shame that the character that talks to you the most is droll and boring. Nothing she says keeps your attention. Lionhead's latest outing into the Fable mythos is a success. Peter Molyneux has indeed redeemed himself, and while the co-op is a gigantic disappointment, this game will stand up to most modern action RPGs. Its biggest fault, besides the online, is that it's too average. It's fun and worth checking out by any self-respecting RPG fan, but its low difficulty forces the game into the border of mediocrity. There's nothing particularly special about this game. The Xbox exclusive Fable 2 gets a B-. If you like action games or RPGs, or action RPGs, expect to enjoy this game. Just don't expect it to challenge you too much.
Next week, I preview Guerrilla Games' Killzone 2, and I review EA's Skate 2 for the Xbox 360. Does this Tony Hawk killing franchise make a major upgrade, or is it simply a retread? All this and more next week on the Sharp and Pointy Perspective.